On February 14, 1960, Valentine's Day, a 12-year-old boy on the island of Jersey went to sleep in his upstairs bedroom. His parents were in the next room. The door was locked. The island had a population of 30,000 people, and the kind of evil that would come through his window that night was something most of them believed only existed in stories. When the boy woke up, there was a man standing at the foot of his bed. He was holding a flashlight pointed directly at the boy's face, blinding him. He was wearing a mask made of rubber that, in the beam of the flashlight, looked like skin that had melted and turned into something that didn't look human. The man placed a rope around the boy's neck. He led him out of the house, into a field, and he did the unthinkable to him. When it was over, the man walked the boy back to his own front door and disappeared into the dark. That was the night the island of Jersey learned it was not a stranger they were looking for. The monster was already inside. Jersey is 9 miles wide and 5 miles long. It's a British Crown dependency in the English Channel, closer to France than England. In the 1950s and 1960s, it was the kind of place where nobody locked their doors, where children walked to school alone, where a stranger on the street was a curiosity, not a threat. In 1957, that changed. The first attack happened at a bus stop in the Monte à l'Abbé district. A nurse was waiting alone when a man approached her. His face was covered with a long scarf, and he had a heavy coat pulled tight around him. He beat her over the head. He tied a rope around her neck. He dragged her into a nearby field and assaulted her. She survived, but she needed stitches. She told police he smelled musty, like old damp clothes that hadn't been aired out in a long time, and that he spoke with an accent she didn't recognize, something that sounded Irish, something she was sure was fake. In March of that same year, a 20-year-old woman was attacked at another bus stop. In July, a 31-year-old. In October, a 28-year-old. Same method every time. The rope, the field, the musty smell, the strange theatrical accent. The press gave him a name, the Beast of Jersey, and he was just getting started. In 1960, the Beast changed his method. He stopped waiting at bus stops. He started coming inside. On Valentine's Day, the attack on the 12-year-old boy, he climbed through a bedroom window in the dead of night. In March, he offered a woman a ride at a bus stop, claimed he was a doctor on his way to pick up his wife. She got in the car. By the time she saw the heavy coat, the hat pulled low, the gloves, it was too late. He drove her to a secluded field, beat her, bound her hands behind her back, and assaulted her. When he led her back to the car afterward, she did the only thing she could do. She opened the passenger door while the vehicle was moving and threw herself out onto the road, screaming. He sped away. Later that same month, a 43-year-old woman and her 14-year-old daughter were asleep in a remote cottage in Saint Martin when the phone rang after midnight. The woman got out of bed to answer it. Silence on the other end. A click, a dial tone. When she went back downstairs to check on a strange noise and reached for the phone to call the police, the line was dead. The wires had been cut. The Beast was already in the living room. He lunged at her, threatened to kill her. Her daughter heard the struggle and came down the stairs. The moment the Beast saw the 14-year-old girl, he let go of the mother and went for the child. The mother ran to a neighbor's house. When she came back with help, the Beast was gone. Her daughter was still there. She was tied up and had been assaulted, but she was alive. By early 1961, the island was in a state of panic. Police began interviewing every man on Jersey with a criminal record. They asked all adult males to voluntarily provide fingerprints. 13 men refused. One of them was the Beast, but the police didn't know that yet. They were under immense pressure from the press, from politicians, from terrified parents who wouldn't let their children sleep alone. They needed someone to arrest. They chose a man named Alphonse Le Gastellois. Le Gastellois was an agricultural worker and fisherman. He was an eccentric, a loner, and a man who kept to himself. Therefore, he was suspicious in the eyes of a frightened community. Police arrested him, interrogated him for 14 hours, and released him without charges. There was no evidence. There never had been, but his name had already been given to the newspapers. His photograph was on the front page. Within days, a mob burned his cottage to the ground. Alphonse Le Gastellois, completely innocent, fled to Les Écrieux, a cluster of barren rocky islets northeast of Jersey. He lived there alone for 14 years. He was cleared of all suspicion when the attacks continued after his arrest, but it didn't matter. The island had decided he was the Beast, and you don't come back from that. He died in 2012 at the age of 97. He never got an apology while the real beast kept hunting. Between 1961 and 1963, the beast attacked 3 more children, boys aged 8 and 9, a girl aged 10, all taken from their bedrooms, all led outside with a rope, all returned to their doorsteps afterward like some grotesque ritual. Scotland Yard was called in. They created a profile, male, 40 to 45 years old, approximately 5'6", medium build, knew the east coast of the island intimately, wore a mask or scarf, attacked between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., used bedroom windows and moonlight. The attack stopped for 2 years. Then in 1966, Jersey police received a letter. It read, "My dear sir, I think that it is just the time to tell you that you are just wasting your time, as every time I have done what I always intended to do, and remember, it will not stop at this. I have always wanted to do the perfect crime. I have done this, but this time let the moon shine very bright in September, because this time it must be perfect. Not 1, but 2. It was signed Wait and See. That August, a 15-year-old girl was taken from her home and assaulted. When she was found, her body was covered in long parallel scratches perfectly spaced, as if made by something sharp worn on the attacker's hands or clothing. The same thing happened to a 14-year-old boy in August 1970, 4 years later. Same scratches, same pattern. The boy told police something new though, the mask. He described a terrifying rubber face and beneath it spiky black hair. Police didn't know it yet, but they now had a signature. Those scratches, they would match exactly the nail-studded wristlets and coat that Edward Paisnel wore during every attack, something no one outside his secret life had ever seen. Edward John Louis Paisnel was born on May 7, 1925, in the parish of Grouville, Jersey. By the time the attacks began, he was a 32-year-old builder, a tradesman, a familiar face in the community. He was married to a woman named Joan, who ran a children's home on the island. She was well respected. She worked with orphans, with vulnerable children, and Edward helped her. He volunteered at the home. He took children in. At Christmas, he dressed as Santa Claus. Nobody knew that. In a hidden room inside his house, Paisnel kept an altar, books on black magic and the occult, a sword, photographs of local properties, potential targets. Nobody knew about the false wall behind which he stored the mask, the wig, the nail-studded coat, the ropes, the flashlights. For 14 years, Edward Paisnel walked the streets of Jersey as a man everybody knew and nobody suspected. He shook hands with the parents of the children he would later assault. He attended community events. He was, by every outward measure, a normal functioning member of a tiny, close-knit island society, and every few months, when the moon was right, he would put on a rubber mask and become something else entirely. 14 years, and nobody has caught him. But the clock has less than a year left to run. On July 17, 1971, an officer with the Jersey police spotted a car run a red light in the St. Helier district. The driver tried to evade pursuit. When the police pulled the car over, they found that it had been stolen earlier that evening. Inside the vehicle, they recovered a black wig, lengths of cord and tape, a flashlight, and a rubber mask. The driver was Edward Paisnel. He was 46 years old. He told the officers he was on his way to a large collective gathering. They didn't believe him. A search of Paisnel's home revealed the hidden room, the altar, the occult books, the sword, the photographs of properties, with notes about entry points. They found the nail-studded raincoat that matched the distinctive scratch patterns on multiple victims. They found the wristlets embedded with nails that he wore so that anyone who struggled against him would be torn open. On November 29, 1971, Edward Paisnel went on trial. He was convicted of 13 counts of assault against 6 of his victims, though the true number was almost certainly far higher, spread across 14 years and an island that was only 9 miles wide. The jury took 38 minutes to reach a verdict. Edward Paisnel was sentenced to 30 years in prison. He served 20 and was released for good behavior in July 1991, at the age of 66. He returned briefly to Jersey, but the island made it clear he was not welcome. He relocated to the Isle of Wight, where he died of a heart attack on July 29, 1994. He was 69 years old. He spent 14 years on an island where everybody knows everybody, terrorizing it. 14 years while a man in a rubber mask walked freely through the daylight as a builder, a husband, and Santa Claus. Alphonse Le Gastellois, the innocent man whose life was destroyed by false accusation, lived on Les Écréous until 1975. He came back to Jersey eventually, but he was never the same. When he died in 2012, the local newspaper described him as the king of the Écréous. He sat on a throne of cold rock and salt wind, earning the title by being the only man an entire island. That was what he decided was a monster, so they wouldn't have to face the truth, that the monster was still in their midst and hunting them. If you want more stories like this, real ones, documented ones, the kind that don't need embellishment to terrify you, then please subscribe and stay close. And don't forget to follow us on social media where you'll get to the latest images, updates, and sneak peeks.